Sometimes people are really quick to just do something and not pausing to think about what are the potential consequences of this if I make this decision. Kind of pros and cons of that. We're rushing so much these days, and I think it's really important to just pause, take time to pause and think, and then also provide counsel to those who need to know and understand what's going on about, to just talk it through and like, this is the potential impact if you make this decision, or if that individual makes that decision. I think pausing is extremely important. And also trust your gut. If something, I've learned, like, trust your gut. If something is not feeling right, then it's important to pause and, again, make the decision based on that, as well as research and facts and things like that.
Welcome to Going Beyond the Image. I'm your host and founder of Gobi Marketing Group, Loanne Lake. If you're still hanging in with us, I appreciate you and I thank you for joining us once again. In each episode, I sit down with leaders and executives who are walking their talk and who understand that branding is behavior, it's culture, it's customer service, both inside the organization and out in the community. These are conversations about what it takes to build trust, inspire teams, and create meaningful impact in today's world. So whether you're a company leader, a nonprofit leader, or the leader of a movement, this show will help you to connect with why you are doing the work that you do, how it connects to who you are, and how you show up as a leader with intention in every space you occupy. So let's get started. Today, I'm joined by public relations strategist and former nonprofit executive Krista Terrell. Krista is the founder of Krista Faye Public Relations and the immediate past president of the Arts and Science Council, or ASC, which is a local arts agency in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in Mecklenburg County. She also serves as a current member of the Board of Ethics and Professional Standards for the Public Relations Society of America. Krista's public relation experience ranges from branding, media relations, and crisis communications. She also works with advocacy, community engagement, content creation, and influencing diversity, equity, and inclusion within organizational structure. She also helps to train nonprofit boards on how to develop and implement effective strategies. So when we talk about someone who knows what branding is, Krista is that person. A native of Augusta, Georgia, Krista earned her bachelor's in communication arts, specializing in the field of public relations from Johnson C. Smith University, which is an HBCU in Charlotte. She is an accredited public relations professional and holds a certificate in nonprofit board consulting. She's an active member of her community and an advocate for the arts who is married with 2 sons. Now, I first met Krista through a mutual colleague when I first moved to Charlotte in 2015. And we've had the good fortune of working together in the arts sector and in public relations spaces over the past decade. So, as I said, when we talk about someone who understands the importance of brand values and integrity, this is right in her wheelhouse. So let's welcome Krista. How are you?
Hi, Loanne. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining us today. So we're going to start with a little bit of background on how you ended up where you are. So can you tell us what attracted you to public relations first, and then I'll ask my next question?
Sure. It's interesting. I really was not aware of public relations when my goal was always my goal was to be a dancer. So I went to performing arts school and wanted to be like with Alvin Ailey, a dancer. But I'll circle back as to how that kind of came full circle for me. But as it relates to public relations, I was at Johnson C. Smith University and I was thinking, like, I want to be a bookings editor. And that means a models booking editor. So booking the models for editorial shoots for like Essence or Vogue, etc. And so when I went to the PR department and spoke to Dr. Albert Crowling, who was my mentor and was a wonderful person, he said, well, maybe you should think about public relations. And so I took a few courses and just really fell in love with it and excelled. And I said, okay, I want to be a PR practitioner. And that's what really started my journey was Dr. Albert Crowley.
That's really interesting. How did I not know that? And the other piece is that you may be able to do that as a second career. You never know, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and what is one of the most important things that you've learned about building a brand in your career?
I think the most important thing that I've learned about building a brand in my career is being consistent and intentional about how you show up. The type of experiences that you or your organization want to have with various publics. Um, and being truthful and always staying true and honest to who you are and what the organization is doing. Those are kind of core things for me.
And that is the whole point of the conversations that I have here on Going Beyond the Image, because as we see so many executives damaging their company's brand because of a lapse in judgment or something that was misinterpreted, we have a bit of an unforgiving society. So even if there was not malintent, if that's the perception, then people are quick to just cancel your work. And I feel like it's an important conversation to have about how leadership helps to keep things grounded in the organization so that you don't have the need for crisis communications later on. Would you tell our listeners a little bit more about Krista Fay Public Relations and some of the projects that you work on?
Sure. Well, I started Krista Fay Public Relations in 2024. And it is a firm that focuses on elevating stories, building credibility, and driving positive and measurable outcomes. And so the types of work that I do ranges from brand storytelling. Worked with a national foundation that created a zine for its board of directors that talked about how arts and culture, their investments in arts and culture, is fueling justice movement works across the country. Worked with a local foundation here and did storytelling about how their investments are really impacting and driving out positive outcomes of people across the state. I have also done nonprofit board development training with an organization in the region here, also in Charlotte. So very passionate about that work. I've also done crisis communications, messaging, media relations, and also did project management, which was one of my first clients, project management to sell an art collection for my friend and also former boss, Robert Bush, who was president of the ASC.
That's really wonderful. And it sounds like you can bring such a wealth of information to your clients because of the broad spectrum of your background. Now, you've served in leadership roles both in the office, in the boardroom, and in your social organization. So, how would you define your brand as a leader?
Well, I think how I define my brand as a leader really connects with my strengths, with my Gallup strengths, if anyone's familiar with Strength Finders. And my strengths are responsibility, discipline, consistency, relator, and harmony. And that connects just with who I am and how I show up. Um, as a former colleague said, Krista gets things done. She gets things done. You never have to worry. And another colleague said, she does the stuff that people don't want to do. And so, um, but when I think about my strengths, those five key top strengths really connect with who it connects to my brand and who I am because it's how I show up, and also more importantly, the how people experience me when they're interacting with me or working with me or collaborating with me.
And I can certainly attest to that. And I think consistency stuck out for me the most because you don't get to where you have been in your career without being able to follow through time and time again. And so we're going to talk a little bit more later about one of the projects that you did lead while you were at the Arts and Science Council. And I use that because, again, today's conversation is around brand in action, if I didn't say that earlier. And brand in action is one of the going beyond the image pillars that looks at how the leader shapes culture within an organization. So not just if it's your brand alone, but how do you, when you have a team that is required to understand what that corporate brand is, how do you instill that from the top down and make sure that it's carried out within the organization? Because sometimes the mess ups don't come from the leadership, it could be from a member of the team that does something that causes harm. So while you were at the Arts and Science Council, how did you ensure that your team, either when you were leading a department or leading the entire organization, carried out the brand values of ASC?
So I always think about when leading a team to make sure that we're focused on the mission of the organization. It always, in nonprofit work, it always goes back to the mission and also the values of the organization. So when I think about my time at ASC, and especially during my time as president for those years and going through a, a challenging time, I think about transparency and honesty um, the most because just being very transparent and honest about what is going on, the potential impact of decisions that are being made. So that's one piece. But while that is going on and being honest and truthful with them to the best of my ability, always bring them back to the core mission of the work and why you're there and how the work we are doing are impacting and affecting positive outcomes of people's lives across Mecklenburg County, whether you're an artist, whether you're a resident in Mecklenburg County or an organization. So really trying to lift up the work that we are doing. And when I think about and lifting up that work, I think about the values of the time at ASC while I was there was around equity,
Yes.
which is the lens through which all decisions are made. Community, we center community in all that we do and really lead by listening to the community. I
Uh-huh.
always say we don't go to West Charlotte, for example, and say, hey, you need opera in your life, here you go. No, we listen and learn from them about their needs and desires and then respond to that. And then collaboration, creating with people and not for people, which goes
Yes.
back to my other example. Accessibility, we're here to serve all of Mecklenburg County, not specific zip codes.
Right.
Um, and then accountability, really being honest and transparent, and also, more importantly, fiscally responsible with our donor dollars. So always centering it back on the values, which fuels the mission, while also being honest and transparent about the current environment that's taking place.
I love
And
that.
the and
Go ahead.
the other thing that I think about for me as a leader, um, really in any situation, but I think about again during my time as president of ASC, and also when I was VP of communications at ASC. It's a wonderful analogy that Brigadier Commander Sergeant Major John Ramirez said, and he's based in Arizona. It's the difference between a gunslinger and a gardener. A gunslinger is someone who is skilled in their craft. They accomplish the mission, but in the end, the benefit is for them, not the
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
And during their time as a gunslinger, they're impacting harm or causing harm to staff, to people all within the organization, creating tension. Um, they're really want to be the glamorous box office draw.
Okay.
And again, in the end, it's the benefit for them and not the organization. And they're really tearing things down and dismantling them, and it's not sustainable. But when you think about the gardener is someone who is dedicated to their craft. They're tending the soil, they're nurturing, they're planting the seeds and nurturing the garden. And having the will and tenacity to pull weeds when you need to pull the weeds. And they're helping to build character by modeling the behavior and the values of the organization. And while they're not the box office draw, they're behind the scenes doing the work. Um, their ultimate success is the success of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about that, I am a gardener. I love cultivating people, supporting people. And while challenging things happen in our lives or maybe happening in an organization, at the end, I want to care for them and also center them back to, this is why we are here. This is the mission of the organization, and this is the direction that we're going, and to stay focused. So that's really important to me.
And listening to you break that down so eloquently, clearly you've done the work to make sure that you are the type of leader that can see past your own needs. And so I think that's a lesson for whoever might be listening to this too. It's just none of this happens overnight. Krista has worked in this field in leadership for more than a decade or two. So it's something that you become and you evolve into as you grow. I'd like to shift to talk a little bit more about one of the programs you built when you were at ASC, which was Culture Blocks. Because that, and you can explain it better than I can. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was and what it was like to create a brand from scratch and watch it grow into an annual event that the community looked forward to? And I would love to
Right.
hear, like, being a part of building something from the
Yes.
beginning and then watching it, the fact that it's there beyond you and the folks that created it says a lot about the value. So I'd love to hear what that process was like, creating a brand from scratch and then seeing it be sustained even now.
So, ASC's Culture Blocks program, I was proud to be a partner in, because it was a team really fueling that work, and proud to be a partner in building Culture Blocks. But Culture Blocks was created because it aligned with Mecklenburg County's one of Mecklenburg County's goals of like bringing Mecklenburg County to you, so that everyone didn't have to come to one Space Force services. And so one element of that, as it relates to arts and culture, and also what we heard from the community, is that people want experiences close to where they live. I always say people know they need to come uptown for the mountaintop experiences like the Color Purple or Hamilton on Broadway or a major exhibition. But people really articulated to us, residents of the community articulated to us in the cultural vision plan, that they want experiences close to where they live.
Mm-hmm.
And so that so with Mecklenburg County's goal, and then and wanting to respond to the community in that way, and also ASC's goal of serving the community, Culture Blocks was created. And it grew. I think in the beginning it started with three areas, again through research, where we knew cultural activity was not taking place, and now there are 10 culture block zones across Mecklenburg County.
Okay.
But it's really, at the end, it's really about listening to and learning from community about the cultural experiences that they want to see, which again ties back to the goals of ASC around community and around collaboration, and also accessibility and equity. And
Mhm.
so, really wanted to, and we were really intentional about how do we want to show up in the various communities. So being intentional from reaching out to them. How do we build trust? We can't just jump into a community. Who can we build relationships with? Because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And so, and it was wonderful to go to various experiences at the library or at the rec center, who were wonderful partners with us, to see the joy on people's faces when they're experiencing cultural offerings that they want to see. And so it's just wonderful, and I'm very grateful that the work is continuing, even though I'm no longer with ASE.
And I love that. And you mentioned earlier that you had a desire to be a dancer and that there was a full circle moment for you with Alvin Ailey. So can you talk about that?
Sure. So growing up, I've always been a dancer. Went to a performing arts school from 6th to 12th grade and studied ballet, had ballet in the mornings, and then after school went to Augusta Ballet for classes. But yes, my dream was to be a dancer with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And and wanted to go to Howard University and take master classes with Debbie Allen. And I did get into Howard, but my mother didn't want me in DC, so ended up at Johnson C. Smith, which was fine. But the various full circle moments for me was number one, meeting April Berry. So April Berry, I was with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, principal dancer with Alvin Ailey, and she became the director of education for Charlotte Ballet. And so I took classes at adult classes at Charlotte Ballet, and we really built a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But the classes that I took, I was able to learn pieces from Revelations, movements from Revelations, which is my favorite kind of artistic piece of all time.
And one of their signature.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also she offered a class in the Catherine Dunham technique, which was just amazing. Like it was just wonderful. It was just a wonderful experience. So while I was like, here's someone who is deeply connected with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, who has performed many, many works of the company, but she's here in Charlotte, wonderful person, building a relationship with her and just learning pieces, and learning different things from her. And so that's one kind of full circle
And
moment.
would
And the
you
other,
mind sharing who Catherine Dunham was for those that don't know the name?
Catherine Dunham was a dancer who also created the Catherine Dunham technique, which is a specialized technique as it relates to dance. And she was very, very dear and close friends with Alvin Ailey.
Thank you for clearing that up. And you
No
were
problem.
going to make another point, so I didn't want to interrupt your thought.
That's okay. That's okay. The other full circle moment for me is that while as a child I wanted to be on the stage dancing and performing, the full circle moment was that my career has been built being on the administrative side of the arts and culture sector, and then becoming president of the Arts and Science Council. I always say, while I'm not on stage, I am behind the scenes, behind the stage, fueling the work of the cultural sector. So that really became a full circle, kind of two full circle moments for me.
And that's a great distinction because everybody can't aim to be the star of the show, but you're a star in your own right because you did the things that allowed the community to experience those performances and in a way that it could reach everyone, regardless if you had deep pockets or not. And I think that's something that most people would say was a positive step for our community because the arts sometimes can feel like it's only for a certain few and those that have the ability to attend shows on Broadway or somewhere else in a major city. So thank you for your work. So now that you have your own firm, what is the brand that you are building at Krista Fay Public Relations?
The brand that I am building at Krista Fay Public Relations is one that is built, number one, in deep relationships, also being responsible, being honest, and really delivering on what the clients want.
Okay.
I think they know, people who connect with me know that I'm really no nonsense. I'm not going to always tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to be honest and truthful with you, even if you don't want to hear it. Because I think that's what's needed. Everything's not fun and rosy. Sometimes there are really hard things. But yeah, I want people to know that they can come to me to get things done, that I'm going to be strategic and that I'm a listener. And more importantly, I want to build a relationship with you.
Good. And if you're looking for someone who can help with those things, then I encourage you to look at Krista's website, which we will share at the end of the show. Many professionals struggle with aligning their personal values with their professional role. Sometimes some people may have a job because it's financially stable, but there are things that go against what they believe. So, how have you navigated that alignment to make sure that within your career, your personal values are not compromised in the work that you do?
Yeah. Um, it's interesting. I've never been in a situation with that. Thankfully, to say, you're doing something that's unethical.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for anyone, it's really important to understand the values. First, understand your values, and also understand the values of the organization. It's really important to not just jump into a job because you need something, like, oh, I need money, let me just go here. Because when you get into it and you haven't done your research, you're in it, and then you learn some things of how they do business does not align with you, and then you're in a really tough situation. So I think it's really important, that whether you're an independent practitioner, to really understand the client's values, as well as if you're a full-time employee somewhere, to understand their values, so that to make sure that it aligns. And then if it doesn't align, it's really for you making the decision that you need to exit that organization, or even bring up to say, hey, I have a concern about this. Again, going back to honesty and being transparent. I have a problem with this, and providing counsel
Mm-hmm.
to solve that problem. And then if it's just too much, and sitting negatively on your spirit, then you know what is the best decision for you to do, the next right move, I guess.
Thank you for that. And as we said earlier, we've been seeing a number of news stories of executives who have damaged their brands through careless actions in their personal lives. Let's talk about this for a little bit. What may be one thing you would encourage either emerging leaders or people who are already in leadership to keep in mind to avoid a potential crisis? Like, what would be your recommendation for someone who is responsible for a brand so that they can stay on the proactive and positive end of public relations and not have to come back and clean up a mess?
For me, it's all about taking the pause. Sometimes people are really quick to just do something,
Mm-hmm.
and not pausing to think about what are the potential consequences of this if I make this decision. Um, Kind of pros and cons of that. I think that we're rushing so much these days, and I think it's really important to just pause, take time to pause and think, and then also provide counsel to those who need to know and understand what's going on, about to just talk it through, and like, this is the potential impact if you make this decision, or if that individual makes that decision. I think pausing is extremely important, and also trust your gut. If something,
Mm-hmm.
I've learned, like, trust your gut. If something is not feeling right, then it's important to pause and again make the decision based on that, as well as research and facts and things like.
I would agree with you. And how do you ensure as a leader that your team so if let's just say we have a leader who's doing all those things and they may struggle with getting that belief system, getting those values, getting the components of their brand to connect with their staff. How do you ensure that your team lives the brand that is being built in the organization?
Well, I think at first, you would have to start at the top. If the person at the top is still not, exemplifying that behavior, as the PR practitioner, you have to continue to work with that person at the top
Yeah.
to try to pause, to stop the behavior and help them stop the behavior. Because at the end, it's at the top and it trickles down into the team.
Right.
But I believe how you continue to help your team live the brand, um, is to, again, going back to their values and modeling as their leader what that brand is. Even if the CEO is doing this, you as their leader, modeling that brand and really encouraging them and helping them. And again, pointing back to, this is the work of this organization.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're trying to do that, you're also trying to work with the CEO.
Got it. And when you transitioned from being a nonprofit executive to the founder of your own firm, how has your leadership brand stayed consistent? And where are some places where you think it may have evolved in the last couple years?
I think my leadership brand has stayed consistent, because I believe people in this community, they know who I am and they know what I stand for. Um, and I think when I receive referrals, for potential clients, those individuals are articulating what I'm about, and again, what I stand for. I don't believe my brand has, evolved. Again, I think it goes back to consistency. This is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I work. And when you engage with me, this is the experience that you're going to have. And so yeah, that's what I think. I
You could say the
Yeah,
strong is still.
I think that's what it is. And I mean, and when I think, I mean, it can evolve because I do crave feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how I learn how to, okay, I need to work on, XYZ. But at the core, um, it really goes back to who I am as an individual and what people who know me or people who connect with me, the experience that they're going to have.
And I'm going to throw in one comment or question here because in this age of AI, as PR professionals, we know that the shift has gone from searching Google to searching one of the AI engines. And interestingly enough, there's the whole conversation around the artificial thing looking for authenticity to then shape your branding. And so as we move forward in this era, I really do agree that whether it's the leaders or the people that work within the company, but organizations are going to have to really m- be intentional about showing up in the right way, but not for likes and clicks and sales, but because this is how they want their business to be known, because this is what they offer, and then let that expand throughout the success of their business. I really, so in a way, even though technology is helping to bring us back to more honest human behavior, I think it's a good thing in the sense that that should be at the core of why you're in business or providing a service anyway, to serve others and not to be self-serving. And sometimes I think some of it, in society, we've gotten away from that because people have been so craving to just go viral all the time. And I've often said, a brand, it's not your logo alone. Yes, it's part of it, but your brand is far from the visual. It's not your logo. It's not about getting people to have 1 million folks liking your latest post. It's really about, will whatever it is that you're selling, promoting, doing benefit the community that you're serving, and will it be around over time?
Yeah, and the other thing, you're right. I mean, a brand is not your logo. A brand is when someone says an organization's name or your name, Luann or Krista, what
Hmm.
are the first three kind of words or phrases that come to mind?
Exactly.
And that is a favorite exercise that I like to do with colleagues or friends, because it really provides insight as it relates to their brand, and also asking that question with different publics. At the end of the day, for me, it's all about relationships.
Hmm.
It's all about the experiences, that organizations and the people that work at organizations are having with the various publics that they serve or work with or collaborate with. Because if they're having negative experiences, then people talk.
Yes.
People talk.
Yes.
And so it's really important to build positive relationships, think about experiences that they want to have, and really being authentic, and really lean into the values of the organizations or your values as an individual. That's
Absolutely.
what creates a brand.
Would you say there's a chapter of your story that you're writing at this current time? You know, people know you here in Charlotte in the art sector. Now you've transitioned into entrepreneur. How is your story evolving? And let me rephrase my question. How would you say the work you've done previously has prepared you for what you're doing today as a business owner?
As PR practitioners, and when you're a really good PR practitioner and have that expertise, they can drop us in any situation and we know what we need to do. We need to research, all of that. And so, while my career has been in the arts and culture sector, and a lot of people know me from that, at the end of the day, I've always been a PR practitioner. Even as president, I'm still a PR practitioner. And so, that's how I'm very fortunate. That's how people know me. Yes, at the end of the day, Krista's a PR practitioner. Yes, her career has been in the arts and culture space.
Yeah.
But now that I have my own business, I'm working in a variety of spaces. And so, it's I don't think it's been like a real shift. For some people to say, "Oh, tell me what you're doing now." But
Right.
I've never encountered a conversation where they said, "Oh, I didn't know you do public relations."
Right. Right.
Because they've known me and how I've shown up, and the work that I've done has always been in PR. It's just been through the arts and culture lens.
I'm letting Sean know. And
Okay.
if your team, your clients, and your family could all describe your leadership in one sentence, what do you think they would say and why?
Krista gets things done because she is proactive.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we're almost done here. And for the audience, you'll hear me say, as I said, your brand is more than your logo or being viral on social media. And I feel like this conversation really honed in on why that is, because there are many components to a brand. And in the course of these conversations with other leaders, that's what we'll be exploring. Your brand is made up of the elements that shape how your customers, current and future, and past ones also, how they perceive your product, your service, your organization. And leaders are responsible for ensuring that the brand they represent is reflected throughout the company, from the person who cleans to the person who answers the phone to the person who makes the sales to the person who is the spokesperson. So today's conversation took a look at what it takes to implement a brand as part of company culture. And I hope you've taken some notes or that you'll tune in again and again to capture the point that you may have missed. So before we close, I have a segment that is called Beyond the Image, and there are no wrong answers. So I'm just going to ask you a series of questions. What is one value or a belief that keeps you grounded, regardless of the role you're in? What keeps you grounded? For some people, it could be faith. For some people, it's confidence. It just depends on what do you hold on to
Yeah.
when things get shaky.
My faith. I know that God has a plan for me and is walking beside me in my life.
And what is one thing that you do that helps to keep you aligned as the leader you want to be? Is there a practice or something that you make sure you exercise so that you stay a strong leader?
Surrounding myself with support, people who support me, and communities that support me.
And what do people often assume about you that doesn't really tell who you are at your core, if there is something that they assume?
anyone say like, "Oh, you're unapproachable," or no, honestly, I can't think of anything.
But that's a beautiful thing because that means you've been walking in who you are,
Yeah,
and what you see is what you get.
yeah,
And that's
pretty
a
much.
really
Yeah,
good.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
That's a really good thing. My last question to you is, when people experience you or your leadership, what do you hope they remember most?
that I'm a truth teller.
And there you have it. Thank you so much, Krista. I really appreciate your honesty, your thoughtfulness, and I hope that the information that you shared today will reach someone who may have been struggling with some of the things we talked about, especially if they're responsible for leading a group of people and carrying out their organization culture and the brand and the image that is being presented. So, listeners, if this episode spoke to you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a leader who might need to hear these nuggets. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and return to the episode so you can get even more out of it the next time you listen. You can also follow Gobi Marketing Group on Instagram and Facebook at GOBI Marketing Group. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, this is Going Beyond the Image. Be blessed.